I wanted to talk about what we're seeing across the customer base with people taking advantage of some retooling around their infrastructure to really modernize their BI stack and the benefits that they're starting to get in this environment with that. If we first sort of set the context of what's going on, the landscape's changing pretty rapidly. Obviously, to deal with the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of shift into the online world. We're seeing a lot of changes in how spend is allocated across our customer base. What we're also starting to see is the consolidation of experiences where people are used to an environment that they deal with as consumers now being the prevalent environment that they want in the workplace is happening more and more. And as these lines with people working from home are blurring between your consumer life and your work life, the experience that people have in working with data in particular is something that we're seeing, the bar and expectations being raised from an employee standpoint. Not only that, but if you look at the benefits that companies who really drive data into their organizations receive out of that investment. McKinsey has these numbers charted where if we look across, customer experience and we look at revenue generation and satisfaction and employee satisfaction, all these numbers are being driven up when employees are empowered with data, in many cases, customers empowered with data. So the good news is, as we look at BI modernization, I think that's not a new comment. I think everyone is used to and understanding the value of data, and you can see that with a number pretty much 100%. Where people identify that data is a key resource that they need to be using. About half the companies out there then prioritize initiatives to put spend behind those. And I think with many IT projects, we unfortunately are seeing the same kind of reflection, which is less than 10% of those companies actually end up getting the benefits or transformational benefits out of investing into data and analytics. And what we're seeing across the customer base is a lot of the reason why is because we're using a model that hasn't really adapted in 50 years. The end result being, if we want to get people data, let's give them a report. And those reports and now dashboards are the way that we'll try to disseminate information into the organization. The issue is that if you think about all the people who need data inside your organization, frontline teams need data that's closer to real time. Understanding the past is useful in some contexts, but many times understanding what's going on right now is much more important. Similarly, with customers and partners operating, in an information vacuum, providing this information at scale in time, in a timely fashion is what's really critical for them. So giving them a dashboard or report of what happened last week is not as operational and useful. And the reason why we've built this way, or the reason why we see this gap in adoption, is all these systems are built really taking a concept of we're going to build the data, we're going to conform it into a certain model so that we can then put it into a technology tool that is the most feature rich or that has the best feature match that we think a consumer would want, and then we produce that report and give that, hoping that users will adopt that tool. Instead of doing that, what we're finding with customers that are being really successful in the environment is they're producing all kinds of data, but in some cases, the exact same data in very different ways. So someone may need or may be interested in that monitor, that dashboard of what's going on. In many cases, people are interested in insights integrating into a system like a Salesforce or a CRM system. And they're interested in seeing that information directly as they're trying to do that work. Other cases, systems can use that information, and in many cases, we would want an application to trigger a result based on something that's happening in the operational environment. All of these are modern BI use cases that are currently not enabled by the majority of tool sets out there. So what we're trying to do is really focus, have our customers focus on what consumers need, whether it's something that we need automatic triggers in an application, or whether somebody needs their hands on data to massage and present, or even if they need the traditional dashboarding and reporting. The key is having diverse experiences for diverse data consumers. So as we look at the pieces that are out there, as we mentioned, we've got sort of the traditional reports and dashboards. But now as we start adding pieces of information, we have people who would like to have trusted exploration. What trusted exploration is they're all around governance. Do people have the ability to look at, a source of truth that everyone can agree on? Is it a piece of information that we're making sure everyone's being delivered in a timely fashion, but also with the pieces of security and access controls around it that we need? Taking that insight then and integrating it, as we had mentioned before, into other systems that people are using, whether it be a chat tool like a Slack, or the next case where we have data-driven workflows where customers can, based on triggers in the data, automatically have something, change advertising spend, for instance, in near real time. And then ultimately, if we're building data that we can interoperate with at a near real-time basis, there are applications and experiences that we can build on top of that. All of this, again, is providing data to consumers in the way they would want it off of a flexible, scalable infrastructure on the back end. The issue that we have in building these experiences with most of the tool sets that exist today is that we start breaking down our flexibility, or we start breaking down our governance. So as with many technology pieces, centralization tends to lead to a strong governance. But when we want flexibility, people tend to need to let the governance go. In a data or BI context, there's a difference between a central repository that's locked down and inflexible versus providing a workbook-like experience where everyone's downloading to a data mart, or even worse, down to their laptop, and working with their own set of data in an ungoverned manner. What we want to do is get the benefits of the flexibility along with the benefits of the governance and be able to do that at scale and at near real time. So what that would allow you to do is then have people have everything from summary information down to row-level data. So if I'm analyzing a supply chain, being able to understand that item that went red is based on one shipment that has a significant problem, or is it a whole bunch of shipments that have a medium problem? When we're looking at a dashboard without the ability to drill down to row-level detail, we obfuscate what the real problem is. So we want to make sure that we have that ability, and that really speaks to scale. As we look at our customer base, not only online, as we look at social media data, the amounts of data that we're really looking at are just huge. And the need to lock that down from a governance perspective becomes much more important. Having that capability, but also having the flexibility of something like a REST API where you can interact with the data and build those experiences I had spoken about, and even custom applications on top of that, allow you to have sort of one infrastructure that's flexible enough to serve all those data needs. So as we look at what modern platforms can do, now instead of looking at the database and what I can do with it to produce a report, we're now starting to look at, well, what are those custom experiences we have and how can we enable that? We still have data teams and app developers who are building the infrastructure and understanding what governance needs to be put in place. But from there, we can start unlocking a variety of experiences. And that's what we see as transformational in BI. And modernizing those stacks is starting to lead to significant benefits. So one customer, which is a large retailer, looked at some of its more antiquated systems that were about 20 years old, went and started to replace those with a new modern infrastructure. This was a straight cost recovery move, but what they found is they have much more flexibility in their ability to get data to consumers the way they would like to consume it, at the same time saving over $10 million annually by moving on from older technologies that are quite expensive to maintain and moving into more flexible environments. Another customer took the capabilities that we spoke about with APIs and building custom experiences, and were able to drive new products to market. What they found is this wholesaler was able to take a software application to market 10 times faster than they would have otherwise, leading them to getting the revenue that they were anticipating from this application much faster and driving their ROI much higher than they thought they could. So the ability to be flexible and operate quickly to get customers' data really provided value to this customer. And then if we look at somebody replacing a large media company, replacing workbook analytics with disparate data throughout the organization, they're able to create a solution that has one platform, a common definition that can scale across the organization. What they were finding is that they had an issue where their analyst community was growing at a fixed rate compared to their employee size. The more projects they had, the more analysts they needed to add. The more employees they added, again, the more analysts they needed to add. By building a scalable platform, they were able to keep that analyst community to a smaller group, focusing on the most important pieces of work that they could have on driving insights, as opposed to maintaining reports for people. And they found a massive increase in ROI and a 70% increase in efficiency of their analyst team. These are some customers that we can talk about, from a naming standpoint. Stripe uses the data that they have access to embed it into Salesforce. So as people are using their Salesforce instances, they're getting insights where they are. Providing an automatic experience where bots are optimizing ad spend is something that FuturePlay is doing. So without a person going and intervening in that workflow, they have the system set up using a BI platform to turn off and on spending from a marketing standpoint. And as people in the industry understand, being able to respond quickly is key in that paradigm. This is a case where systems can automatically respond. And then we have, with global payments, a customer who is unlocking new revenue streams by providing additional customer experiences through applications where we're providing data to their consumers. In all these ways, we're pretty excited about the value that we're seeing customers achieve as they modernize their BI stack.